King Deneb sat trembling in horror, staring at the view screen displaying Earth, as he realized that if he did not instantly quit his job as ruler of the Cardassians to personally go to Earth and start a new life there, he would be dooming himself to living the rest of his miserable existence on this savage warship as the hated and despotic ruler of a cruel and warlike race that had brutally conquered countless worlds. The Cardassians were once a proud warrior race, striking fear into the hearts of the galaxy under Deneb's tyrannical rule. But decades of endless warfare had depleted their resources and left their crumbling empire on the verge of ruin. In desperation, Deneb's advisors had sought out new worlds to plunder. When their long-range scans detected the lush blue-green planet called Earth, they saw it as easy prey, a primitive civilization ripe for conquest and subjugation. But as Deneb observed the humans from afar, instead of seeing weakness, he witnessed astonishing resilience, boundless ingenuity, and untapped potential. In that moment, a profound realization struck him like a plasma blast. If he did not escape the Cardassian warship and flee to Earth immediately, he would be forever shackled to this decaying empire, endlessly waging war until it eventually crumbled to dust. More than that, as he watched the humans, for the first time in his life, he glimpsed the possibility of a better way, a path of healing, growth, and new beginnings. Without hesitation, Deneb made his choice. In an act that stunned his advisors and sent shockwaves through Cardassian society, he abdicated his throne and commandeered a small shuttle. Deneb knew he would be hunted by his vengeful former subjects, but he had to try to reach Earth no matter the cost. The humans represented his only hope to start over and perhaps one day find redemption. But unbeknownst to Deneb at that very moment, human astronaut Raymond Scott was responding to the Cardassian distress beacon, grimly expecting to find some stranded aliens in need of rescue. Instead, he landed on a planet descending into chaos, a hostile world now leaderless and teetering on the brink of civil war. And amidst the turmoil, he crossed paths with a desperate alien king, begging for his help to secretly reach Earth. Raymond faced an impossible decision, one on which the fate of humanity could depend. If he helped Deneb and knowledge of Earth's location leaked to the Cardassians, their merciless war fleets could descend upon his homeworld and unleash unimaginable devastation. The risk was immense, but he could not ignore the opportunity Deneb presented. An alien ruler wanting to learn from and open relations with Earth was an unprecedented chance for humans to expand into the galactic community. With great reservation, Raymond agreed to aid Deneb. Though Deneb had once ruled as a despot, he now seemed truly humbled and transformed by what he had witnessed of humanity. And so the unlikely pair embarked on a dangerous quest across the stars, with Deneb's enraged former subjects and Raymond's disapproving human superiors in close pursuit. The survival of Earth and the Cardassian people, along with the hope for a new era of peace, hinged on the success of their risky mission. As Cardassian warships hunted them, and tensions between the two civilizations threatened to explode into all-out war, Raymond and Deneb would have to put their trust in each other to have any hope of bridging the gap between their star-spanning societies in time to avert catastrophe. The stage was set for a sci-fi epic of clashing cultures, unexpected alliances, and the power of two individuals to change the course of the future for their entire species. Raymond guided the spacecraft down through Earth's atmosphere, his hands gripping the controls tightly. Deneb sat beside him, staring out the viewport with a mix of apprehension and awe as the blue-green planet loomed larger. They had chosen a remote landing site, far from prying eyes, but Raymond knew that integrating Deneb into human society would be a daunting challenge. As they touched down in a barren desert, kicking up clouds of dust, Raymond turned to Deneb. "We need to be careful. My people aren't ready for this." Deneb nodded solemnly. "I understand. Your help means everything to me." Raymond pulled out a communication device and hesitated before making a call. He knew he could trust Michael Novak with his life. They had been through the academy together, flown countless missions side by side. If anyone could help them navigate this minefield, it was him. Michael's voice crackled over the comm. "Raymond, where the hell have you been?" "I need your help, Mike. I can't say much over comms. Can you meet me and keep this between us? A pause. Of course, send me the coordinates. Hours later, Michael's sleek aircraft touched down beside Raymond's shuttle. His eyes widened as he saw Deneb emerge, taking in the alien's gray skin and ridged features. Raymond quickly explained the situation, and to his relief, Michael agreed to help without hesitation. I know someone, Michael said thoughtfully. Alexander Thompson. He's got the clearance and the open mind we need. Let me set up a meeting. The clandestine gathering took place in a dimly lit bunker deep underground. Alexander Thompson, a severe-looking man with graying hair, listened intently as Deneb recounted his story. He leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with interest. An alliance with an advanced alien civilization could change everything, Alexander mused. But we must proceed carefully. The public isn't ready for this revelation. We'll need to introduce you gradually to key players in the government and scientific community. Deneb bowed his head. I am in your debt. I only wish to learn from you, to find a path to peace for my people. As the days turned into weeks, Deneb found himself immersed in Earth's history and culture. He pored over books and digital archives, marveling at humanity's achievements and struggles. But he also saw unsettling parallels to Cardassia's own troubled past. We, too, once sought to conquer and dominate, Deneb confided to Raymond one evening. It led us to ruin. We must find a better way. Raymond clasped Deneb's shoulder. We will. Together. But back on Cardassia, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. News of Deneb's disappearance had spread like wildfire, and various factions were vying for control in the power vacuum. In the chaos, Deneb's cousin Alnitak seized the throne, his eyes burning with a thirst for vengeance and conquest. Deneb has betrayed us all, Alnitak snarled to his inner circle. We will find him and make an example of him, and this Earth he has fled to. It will be the jewel in our new empire's crown. As Alnitak mobilized the Cardassian war fleet, Raymond received an urgent message from Alexander. We've picked up strange energy signatures at the edge of our solar system. It must be the Cardassians. They're coming. Raymond, Deneb, and Michael worked feverishly to prepare Earth's defenses. Deneb shared his knowledge of Cardassian technology and tactics, helping to fortify key installations and develop countermeasures. But they faced growing opposition from factions within the human government and military, who viewed Deneb with suspicion and fear. We're running out of time, Raymond said grimly as they studied the latest intelligence reports. The Cardassian fleet will be here within days. Deneb's face was lined with pain and purpose. My people are capable of terrible things, but they are also capable of change, of redemption. We must stand together, Raymond. The fate of both our worlds depends on it. As the Cardassian fleet approached and Earth's forces mobilized for a final stand, Raymond looked to the stars and knew that the coming battle would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. The future of two civilizations hung in the balance, and he could only pray that the fragile trust and understanding they had built would be enough to see them through the fires ahead. Raymond wiped sweat from his brow as he pored over schematics of Cardassian weapon systems. Deneb leaned in, pointing out key vulnerabilities. Their shields have a weakness here, Deneb said, tapping the display. A concentrated burst of tachyon particles could create a localized breach. Raymond nodded, making rapid notes. We can modify our torpedo payloads to exploit that. I'll get our engineers on it right away. In the war room, Alexander Thompson conferred with military leaders from around the globe via holographic projections. Gentlemen, time is of the essence. We must present a united front against this threat. Michael burst through the door, face grim. New intel just came in. The Cardassian fleet has accelerated. They'll be here within hours. Before Raymond could respond, alarms blared. Outside, the sky lit up with searing beams of energy. The Cardassian bombardment had begun. Raymond sprinted to the hangar shouting orders. He climbed into the cockpit of a sleek fighter, a fusion of human and Cardassian tech. The neural interface hummed to life as he took off, leading a squadron into the fray. Space burned. Raymond's fingers danced across controls, weaving through debris and enemy fire. He lined up a shot on a Cardassian command ship, unleashing a volley of modified torpedoes. The enemy vessel's shields flickered and died. "Direct hit!" Raymond called out. "All wings, press the attack!" On the ground, chaos reigned. Deneb rallied a group of human soldiers, his voice carrying over the din of battle. "Focus fire on their lead elements. Don't let them establish a beachhead." Michael and his team moved through the shadows, planting explosives on Cardassian supply depots. They worked with grim efficiency, knowing millions of lives hung in the balance. Despite their efforts, Earth's defenses buckled. Cardassian troops poured into major cities. Raymond's fighter took a hit, spiraling toward the ground. He ejected, parachuting into a war-torn landscape. Alnitak's face appeared on screens worldwide. "People of Earth, your resistance is futile. Surrender now and turn over the traitor Deneb." Raymond found Deneb in the rubble of a command center. "We have to end this," Raymond said. "Now." They formulated a desperate plan. Using stolen Cardassian tech, they beamed aboard Alnitak's flagship. Alarms blared as they fought their way to the bridge. Alnitak spun to face them, eyes blazing. "Deneb, you dare show your face here?" "Cousin, listen to me," Deneb pleaded. "This path leads only to destruction, for both our peoples." "Spare me your weakness," Alnitak spat. Raymond lunged, grappling with the Cardassian leader. They traded blows, evenly matched. Deneb's voice cut through the struggle. "Look at what we've done, Alnitak. Look at the death we've sown. Is this truly the legacy you want for our people?" Alnitak hesitated, his grip loosening. Raymond saw doubt flicker in the Cardassian's eyes. "There is another way," Deneb continued. "A way of cooperation, of mutual growth. The humans have shown me this." Alnitak stepped back, conflict etched on his features. He looked from Deneb to Raymond, then to the view screen showing Earth below. "Perhaps," Alnitak said slowly, "perhaps there is wisdom in your words, cousin." He tapped a control panel. "All forces stand down. Cease hostilities immediately." Raymond sagged with relief, barely able to believe what he was hearing. As the weapons fell silent, he knew the real work was just beginning. Building trust between their civilizations would be a monumental task. But for the first time, there was hope. Months passed as Earth slowly rebuilt. Raymond spent his days in endless meetings, hammering out the framework for peace with Cardassian diplomats. The negotiations were tense, filled with thinly veiled threats and accusations. "We cannot simply forget the destruction you unleashed," a human representative snarled across the table. The Cardassian diplomat's scales flushed dark. "And we cannot ignore our own losses. Your weapons were far from merciful." Raymond rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of two worlds. "Gentlemen, please, we must move forward or we're doomed to repeat this cycle." Deneb stood, his presence commanding silence. "I propose a bold step. Let us bring our youth together to learn from one another. A student exchange program." Murmurs of dissent filled the room. Raymond locked eyes with Deneb, nodding slightly. It was a risk, but one worth taking. Weeks later, Raymond opened his front door to find a young Cardassian glaring up at him. Dalen's ridged brow furrowed with suspicion. "Welcome to Earth," Raymond said, forcing a smile. "Come in." Dalen shouldered past, dumping his bag unceremoniously. "Let's be clear, human. I'm here because I was ordered to be. Nothing more." Raymond's son, Jason, bounded down the stairs, eyes wide. "Whoa, cool! Is that what all Cardassians look like?" Dalen bristled. "We are not some spectacle for your amusement." "Hey now," Raymond intervened. "Jason's just curious. Why don't we all sit down and talk?" The first days were awkward, filled with tense silences and clipped responses. But as weeks turned to months, something shifted. Raymond found Dalen poring over history books late into the night. Jason taught him to skateboard, laughing as the Cardassian flailed and cursed. One evening, Raymond overheard them talking in the backyard. "So you really don't have any games on Cardassia?" Jason asked. Dalen hesitated. We focus on more important things. Military training, mostly." That sounds boring as hell, dude. A pause, then a soft chuckle from Dalen. Perhaps you're right. On Cardassia Prime, Alnitak paced before his war council. Deneb has betrayed us all. While we entertain this farce of peace, the humans prepare to strike. A general leaned forward. What proof do you have, my lord? Alnitak's eyes glittered. Our operatives on Earth have uncovered plans for a massive weapons platform. They cloak it as a defense system, but we know the truth. The council erupted in outrage. Alnitak allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. Back on Earth, Deneb burst into Raymond's office, face grim. We have a problem. Alnitak is moving against us. Raymond's blood ran cold. How bad? He's rallying the council for war. We need to act now. They hatched a desperate plan. Raymond turned to Dalen, who had been listening silently. We need your help. Your family. Can they be trusted? Dalen nodded slowly. They've grown disillusioned with Alnitak's leadership. I think they'll listen. Hours later, Raymond and Dalen boarded a stealth shuttle bound for Cardassia Prime. As they broke atmosphere, Raymond gripped the controls tightly. You ready for this? He asked. Dalen's face was a mask of persistence. Ready to save both our worlds? Absolutely. As their ship streaked across the stars, Michael's team on Earth raced to uncover the extent of Alnitak's sabotage plot. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, with precious little time to... As Raymond and Dalen's stealth shuttle approached Cardassia Prime, chaos erupted on Earth. Alnitak, his eyes gleaming with malice, strode into the negotiation chamber flanked by heavily armed guards. The human delegates recoiled, hands instinctively reaching for weapons that weren't there. This farce ends now, Alnitak snarled, smacking his palm on the table. Earth will surrender unconditionally or face annihilation. Deneb stood, his voice steady despite the tension crackling through the air. You've overplayed your hand, cousin. Your true agenda is laid bare for all to see. Murmurs of anger rippled through the human contingent. Alexander Thompson's face hardened as he turned to his aides. Lock down all critical systems now. But it was too late. Across the globe, explosions rocked military installations and government buildings. Alnitak's agents struck with surgical precision, targeting key figures who championed peace. In New York, Michael ducked as shrapnel rained down around him. He pressed his comlink, shouting over the din of alarms and screams. We're under attack. All teams, engage countermeasures. His squad moved swiftly through smoke-filled corridors, neutralizing Cardassian infiltrators with ruthless efficiency. They reached the central defense grid moments before a saboteur could trigger a catastrophic systems failure. Not today, you scaly bastard, Michael growled, tackling the Cardassian to the ground. As Earth teetered on the brink of defeat, a battered shuttle burst through the atmosphere. Raymond and Dalen stumbled out, clutching data crystals and flanked by grim-faced Cardassian soldiers. We have proof, Raymond shouted, his voice hoarse. Alnitak's been playing us all. The evidence was damning. Recordings of secret meetings, financial transactions funding terrorist cells, plans for false flag attacks, all pointing to Alnitak's web of deceit. On Cardassia Prime, the revelation hit like a shockwave. High-ranking officials, their faces twisted with disgust, publicly denounced Alnitak, but the empire fractured, with some colonies rallying behind the deposed leader. Phaser fire lit up the night sky over New Berlin as Earth's forces clashed with Alnitak's diehard supporters. Buildings crumbled, streets ran red with blood from both species. Alnitak, cornered and desperate, retreated to a hidden facility deep in the Cardassian Badlands. His eyes wild, he activated a comm channel that broadcast across both worlds. Witness the price of defiance, he roared. Behind him loomed a massive device, pulsing with ominous energy. This weapon will reduce both our worlds to ash unless my rule is absolute. Raymond, Deneb, and Dalen shared a grim look before racing to their shuttle. They blasted off, pushing the engines beyond safe limits as they hurtled towards Cardassia. There! Dalen pointed to a shimmering distortion in the planet's atmosphere. The base's cloaking field. They crash-landed, fighting their way through waves of fanatics. Raymond's muscles burned as he grappled with a guard twice his size, finally managing to wrench the Cardassian's weapon free. They burst onto the command deck, finding Alnitak hunched over the Doomsday device's controls. A desperate struggle ensued, fists and energy beams flying as they fought to reach the central console. Deneb's hand slammed down on the shutdown sequence. Alarms blared as the weapon powered down, and Alnitak howled in rage. Raymond tackled him, pinning the deposed leader to the ground. "It's over," Raymond panted, securing restraints around Alnitak's wrists. In the days that followed, an uneasy peace settled over both worlds. Deneb, proclaimed as the new Cardassian leader, stood before a joint assembly of humans and Cardassians. "We have won a great victory," he said, his voice heavy. "But at terrible cost. The real work begins now." Raymond nodded, surveying the crowd. Faces human and Cardassian alike showed exhaustion, grief, and lingering suspicion. Building trust would be a monumental task. Yet, as Raymond surveyed the faces before him, human and Cardassian alike, he saw a glimmer of hope. Deneb stepped forward, his voice carrying across the assembly hall. "We stand at a crossroads. The path ahead is fraught with challenges, but together we can forge a new era of cooperation and understanding." He outlined his proposal for a joint task force, drawing surprised murmurs from the crowd. Raymond felt a weight settle on his shoulders as Deneb named him the human representative. Weeks later, Raymond found himself on the war-torn surface of Bajor. The planet's once lush landscape was now a patchwork of craters and ruins. As he exited the shuttle, a rock sailed past his head. "Cardassian scum!" a voice shouted from the crowd gathered nearby. "Get off our world!" Raymond raised his hands, trying to project calm. "We're here to help rebuild." His words were cut off by a hail of debris. Cardassian guards moved to retaliate, but Deneb held up a hand. "No. We must show restraint." They retreated to a makeshift command center, the angry shouts of the crowd following them. Inside, Raymond slumped into a chair. "This is going to be harder than we thought." Deneb nodded grimly. "We need a local voice, someone the Bajorans trust." That someone turned out to be Kai Opaka, a diminutive woman with piercing eyes. She regarded Raymond and Deneb coolly as they explained their mission. "Why should we believe you?" she asked. "After all the Cardassians have done?" "Because we have no choice," Raymond said. "Either we find a way forward together, or we're all doomed." Opaka studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "I will help, but know this. If you betray us, there will be no second chances." The negotiations that followed were grueling. Raymond spent hours hunched over tables, arguing minutiae of troop withdrawals and resource allocation. More than once, talks nearly broke down entirely. But slowly, painfully, progress emerged. Raymond watched with satisfaction as the first joint human-Cardassian construction crew broke ground on a new hospital. As the weeks turned to months, Raymond and Deneb threw themselves into Bajoran culture. They attended temple services, shared meals with local families, even attempted to learn the complex Bajoran language. One evening, as they shared a meal of hasperat with a Bajoran engineer, the man chuckled at Raymond's clumsy pronunciation. "You're not so bad for an off-worlder," he said, clapping Raymond on the back. It was a small moment, but Raymond felt a surge of hope. Then the first bomb went off. The blast rocked the newly built hospital, sending Raymond sprawling. He scrambled to his feet, ears ringing, to find chaos. Smoke billowed from shattered windows as screams filled the air. "Get a security team here now," he shouted into his communicator. Deneb appeared at his side, scales pale with shock. "This is just the beginning," Deneb said grimly. "Alnitak's loyalists won't give up easily." In the days that followed, more attacks came. A Cardassian diplomat assassinated, a human aid station bombed. With each incident, the fragile peace threatened to unravel. Raymond paced in his quarters, frustration boiling over. "We're running out of time," he growled. We need to find these bastards. A chirp from his communicator interrupted his brooding. It was Dalen. I may have something, the young Cardassian said. My contacts have identified a possible hideout for the terrorist leader. Raymond's pulse quickened. Where? An abandoned mining facility in the Dakor Hills, but we'll need to move fast. Raymond nodded, already reaching for his phaser. Gather your team. We end this tonight. As he strapped on his tactical gear, Raymond caught sight of his reflection. The face staring back at him was haggard, with new lines etched by stress and sleepless nights, but his eyes burned with fierce intensity. He turned to Deneb, his voice low and urgent. We can't let these attacks continue. It's time to end this. Deneb nodded, his scaled features set with grim purpose. Agreed. We'll assemble our best operatives, human and Cardassian alike. Within hours, a strike force gathered in a secure bunker. Raymond surveyed the mix of uniforms, Starfleet blues mingling with the muted grays of Cardassian military attire. Tension crackled in the air as old enemies stood shoulder to shoulder. Dalen burst into the room, clutching a datapad. We've located them, he announced, his voice breathless. A hidden base on Toros IV. Raymond leaned over the holographic display, studying the terrain. Jagged mountains and dense forests surrounded a camouflaged structure. It won't be easy, he muttered. When has it ever been? Deneb replied, a hint of dark humor in his voice. The assault team touched down on Taurus IV under the cover of darkness. Raymond led the advance, his boots crunching softly on alien soil. The base loomed ahead, a fortress of duranium and force fields. Suddenly, the night erupted in phaser fire. Raymond dove for cover as energy beams seared the air around him. Contact left, he shouted, returning fire. The battle raged fierce and chaotic. Human and Cardassian soldiers fought side by side, their differences forgotten in the heat of combat. Raymond spotted Dalen pinned down by heavy fire, the young Cardassian's face twisted in fear. Without hesitation, Raymond sprinted from his position. Dalen, move, he yelled, tackling the Cardassian just as a barrage of disruptor bolts tore through the space where Dalen had been. White-hot pain exploded in Raymond's chest. He gasped, tasting copper as he collapsed to the ground. Dalen's panicked face swam in his fading vision. Raymond, stay with me! Deneb's voice cut through the din of battle. Man down! Get a medic here now! As consciousness slipped away, Raymond heard Deneb barking orders. The Cardassian's voice rang with authority, rallying the troops for a final push. Raymond drifted in and out of awareness. Snippets of conversation reached him through a fog of pain and sedatives. Heavy casualties on both sides. Captured their leader, but at what cost? They don't trust us anymore. The humans blame us for Raymond's injuries. And our people resent being led by a human. Everything we've worked for is falling apart. Raymond struggled to speak, to reassure them, but the darkness pulled him under once more. Time passed in a haze of beeping monitors and hushed voices. Then suddenly, clarity. Raymond opened his eyes to find Deneb at his bedside, looking haggard but relieved. Welcome back, old friend, Deneb said softly. You've missed quite a bit. Raymond's voice rasped as he spoke. The ceremony, on Bajor. I need to be there. Deneb's eyes widened. How did you know? The doctor said you might not. I know, Raymond interrupted, struggling to sit up. And I'm going. No arguments. The gathered crowd on Bajor fell silent as Deneb took the podium. His voice carried across the assembly, strong and clear. We stand here today, not as Cardassians or humans, but as beings united in our pursuit of peace, he began. We have shed blood together, suffered together, and now we must heal together. Raymond watched from a hover chair, his chest wrapped in bandages. He saw the doubt and suspicion on many faces, human, Cardassian, and Bajoran alike. Deneb continued, his words gaining passion. Look around you. See the faces of those you once called enemy. They are not so different from your own. We have all lost. We have all grieved. And now We must all forgive. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Raymond saw tears in the eyes of a grizzled Starfleet officer, while a Cardassian woman clasped hands with her Bajoran neighbor. To symbolize our commitment, Deneb said, gesturing to a small sapling, we will plant this tree of peace. Its roots will grow deep, binding our worlds together. Raymond pushed himself to his feet, ignoring the flash of pain. He shuffled forward, joining Deneb at the planting site. Together, they lifted the delicate seedling and lowered it into the soil. As they patted the earth around its base, Raymond looked out at the sea of faces. He saw hope there, fragile but growing. Raymond watched as the sapling's roots took hold in Bajoran soil. The crowd's murmurs grew, a mix of cautious hope and lingering doubt. He turned to Deneb, his voice low. This is just the beginning. Deneb nodded, his scales catching the sunlight. Indeed, we have much work ahead. In the weeks that followed, Raymond and Deneb threw themselves into strengthening the fragile alliance. They met daily, poring over reports and drafting proposals late into the night. A joint scientific initiative, Raymond said, pushing a data pad across the table. Deep space propulsion. It'll give our people a common goal. Deneb's eyes lit up as he scanned the document. Ambitious, but who will lead it? Raymond leaned back, a hint of pride in his voice. I have someone in mind. My protege, Ben Jeffries. Brilliant physicist, graduated top of his class at Starfleet Academy. Ah, Deneb said, his lips curving into a smile. Then allow me to suggest my niece, Tora Zial. She's made quite a name for herself in theoretical warp mechanics. The research facility buzzed with activity as human and Cardassian scientists worked side by side. Ben Jeffries, a lanky human with unruly red hair, hunched over a console, muttering calculations under his breath. Across the lab, Tora Zial, her Cardassian features softened by her Bajoran heritage, manipulated a holographic model of a warp core. If we realign the dilithium matrix, Ben said, excitement building in his voice, we could increase efficiency by at least 15%. Zial frowned, her fingers dancing over the controls. That would destabilize the warp field unless... Her eyes widened. What if we introduced a phase variance? Ben rushed to her station, nearly tripping over his own feet. Yes, that could work. Their shared enthusiasm was short-lived. A human scientist sneered at Zial's calculations. Typical Cardassian over-engineering. We don't need your overcomplicated nonsense. A Cardassian researcher bristled, scales flushing dark. And I suppose you humans would prefer we use stone knives and bear skins? The argument escalated, voices rising as old prejudices surfaced. Ben and Zial exchanged helpless glances as their team fractured along species lines. Raymond's communicator chirped, Deneb's voice tense. We have a problem. They convened in Raymond's office, watching footage of the lab dispute. Raymond rubbed his temples. We need to fix this, fast. Deneb nodded, his expression grim. Agreed, but how? Raymond's eyes lit up. I have an idea. How do you feel about a little vacation? The scientists gathered on the lush beaches of Risa, suspicion evident in their stances. Raymond addressed the group, his voice firm. You're here for one reason, to learn to work together. Your first task starts now. He gestured to a series of complex puzzles laid out on the sand. These can only be solved through cooperation. You have 1 hour. The group stood apart at first, eyeing each other warily. But as the minutes ticked by, curiosity overcame mistrust. A Cardassian engineer tentatively offered a suggestion to her human counterpart. A human physicist asked a Cardassian colleague to explain a concept. By the time the hour was up, the groups had merged, excitedly sharing ideas. Raymond caught Deneb's eye, a small smile playing on his lips. Progress, slow but steady. As the retreat continued, barriers fell. They shared meals, swapped stories of their homes, and found common ground in their passion for discovery. Ben and Zial led a spirited discussion on the cultural impact of warp travel, human and Cardassian voices blending in animated debate. On the final night, gathered around a bonfire, A Cardassian scientist raised his glass. To new friends and new frontiers. The human beside him clinked glasses. Here's to proving the impossible possible. As Raymond watched the group laugh together, he felt a surge of hope. They were on the right path. But light years away, on Cardassia Prime, shadows gathered. In a dimly lit room, Gul Dukat, his features sharp in the flickering light, addressed a group of hardline supporters. Deneb has made us weak, he snarled, pounding his fist on the table. He bows to humans while our people suffer. It's time to reclaim our strength. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Dukat's eyes gleamed with cruel satisfaction. Soon, we will remind the galaxy of Cardassian might, and those who stand in our way will burn. Raymond stood on the observation deck, gazing out at the gleaming spires of the newly constructed Interstellar Academy. The neutral planet's twin suns bathed the campus in a warm golden light. He turned to Deneb, who stood beside him. It's finally happening, old friend, Raymond said, his voice filled with quiet pride. Deneb nodded, his scaled features set in a thoughtful expression. Indeed, but this is only the beginning. They walked through the bustling corridors, passing state-of-the-art laboratories where human and Cardassian technologies seamlessly merged. In one room, a holographic star map flickered to life, displaying uncharted regions of space. In another, students huddled around a quantum computer, its sleek design a testament to the collaboration between their peoples. As the first day of classes dawned, Raymond watched the diverse group of students file into the grand lecture hall. His son Jason took a seat near the front, his eyes bright with excitement. Beside him sat Kira, Dalen's daughter, her Cardassian features softened by a warm smile. The initial camaraderie was short-lived. Within weeks, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Raymond overheard heated arguments in the cafeteria, saw suspicious glances exchanged in the halls. You Cardassians think you're so superior? A human student sneered, shoving past a group of Cardassian classmates. At least we have culture, unlike you Federation barbarians, a Cardassian shot back, scales flushing dark with anger. Jason and Kira found themselves caught in the middle, their childhood friendship strained as they navigated the complex web of allegiances forming around them. I don't understand, Jason said to Kira one evening as they studied in the library. We've known each other our whole lives. Why does everyone else have such a hard time getting along? Kira sighed, setting down her datapad. It's not that simple, Jason. There's a lot of history between our people. Before Jason could respond, the lights flickered and went out. Emergency klaxons blared through the darkness. What's happening? Kira asked, fear evident in her voice. Suddenly, armed figures burst into the library. Their leader, a tall Cardassian with cold eyes, stepped forward. I am Damar, he announced, his voice dripping with contempt, and this farce of an academy ends now. Chaos erupted as students scrambled for cover. Damar's men seized Kira, dragging her away despite Jason's desperate attempts to intervene. Raymond and Deneb sprang into action, assembling a strike team of trusted operatives. They moved swiftly through the darkened corridors, phasers at the ready. We need to reach the central hub, Deneb whispered. That's where they'll be holding the hostages. As they neared their destination, a firefight erupted. Energy beams seared the air, leaving scorch marks on the pristine walls. Raymond ducked behind a fallen column, returning fire as Deneb flanked their attackers. In the midst of the battle, Raymond found himself face to face with Damar. The Cardassian's eyes blazed with fury as he leveled his weapon at Raymond's chest. You've corrupted my people, Damar snarled. Turned us into simpering Federation lapdogs. Raymond held his gaze steady. Is that what you truly believe, Damar? Or is it easier to blame others than face the truth? Damar's hand trembled. What truth? That change is inevitable, Raymond said, his voice firm but compassionate. That we're stronger together than we ever were apart. For a moment, doubt flickered across Damar's face. His weapon lowered a fraction of an inch. Think about what you're doing, Raymond pressed. Is this the legacy you want to leave? More violence, more suffering? Damar's shoulders sagged. Slowly he lowered his weapon. I don't know anymore. As the crisis subsided, Raymond and Deneb gathered the shaken students and faculty in the main auditorium. Raymond's voice rang out, clear and resolute. What happened today is a stark reminder of the challenges we face, he began. But it also shows us why this academy is so vital. Deneb stepped forward, his gaze sweeping across the assembled crowd. We cannot erase centuries of mistrust overnight, but here, in this place of learning, we have the opportunity to forge a new path. As Raymond looked out at the sea of faces, human, Cardassian, and others, he saw fear and uncertainty, but also a glimmer of hope. The road ahead would be arduous and taxing, but they had taken the first steps towards a truly united future. Years passed, and the dream of unity that Raymond and Deneb had nurtured at the Interstellar Academy faced its greatest test. The Dominion emerged from the Gamma Quadrant like a storm, their ships blackening the skies of world after world. Raymond stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, his weathered hands gripping the rail as he watched another planet fall to the invaders. The view screen flickered with images of destruction, cities reduced to ash, fleeing civilians cut down by Jem'Hadar troops. "We've lost contact with Beta Z," a young officer reported, her voice quavering. Raymond closed his eyes, the weight of another failure settling on his shoulders. He turned to Deneb, who stood beside him, scales dulled with exhaustion. "We need to regroup," Raymond said. "Bajor is our last line of defense." As they limped towards the Bajoran system, Raymond received word that the Interstellar Academy was being evacuated. He watched as shuttles streamed from the planet's surface, carrying the hopes and dreams of a generation. In the chaos of preparations, Raymond found his son Jason, now a seasoned captain. They stood in a crowded corridor, voices and alarms blaring around them. "I need you to lead the refugee convoy," Raymond said, gripping Jason's shoulders. "Get them to safety." Jason's eyes, so like his mother's, searched Raymond's face. "What about you?" "Someone has to hold the line." Father and son embraced, words failing them both. As they parted, Raymond felt the finality of the moment settle in his chest. The battle over Bajor erupted in a fury of weapons fire and exploding ships. Raymond barked orders from the Defiant's command chair, directing their meager forces against the overwhelming Dominion fleet. Suddenly, Deneb's voice cut through the din. "Raymond, we're receiving a transmission from Tora." The view screen flickered to life, revealing Tora Zial's face. Her Cardassian features were twisted with a cruel smile that sent chills down Raymond's spine. "Hello, Father," she said, her voice dripping with malice. "I have an offer for you." As Tora laid out her ultimatum, Raymond watched the color drain from Deneb's scales. The choice was impossible: surrender or watch an entire system burn. Before they could respond, alarms blared. Bajor's atmosphere ignited, the planet's surface transforming into a hellscape of fire and ash. "My God," Raymond whispered, watching the devastation unfold. In that moment, as Bajor burned, Raymond and Deneb exchanged a look of grim understanding. They would not yield, not even in the face of annihilation. "All ships," Raymond's voice rang out over the comm. "This is our last stand. For freedom, for unity, for the future we believe in. Engage the enemy." The battered Alliance fleet surged forward, weapons blazing against the Dominion armada. On a Cardassian warship, Dalen and Jason fought side by side, their childhood bond forged into battlefield brotherhood. "We need to get to that flagship," Jason shouted over the sound of exploding conduits. "It's our only chance to stop Tora." They battled their way through corridors choked with smoke and bodies, finally reaching the command center where Tora stood, her hand poised over the Doomsday device's controls. Dalen stepped forward, his phaser wavering. "Cousin, please, this isn't you. Remember who you are." For a moment, something flickered in Tora's eyes, a hint of the person she once was. In that split second of hesitation, Dalen lunged forward. His hand slammed down on the device, initiating an overload sequence. Alarms blared as energy built to catastrophic levels. "Jason, go!" Dalen shouted, holding Tora back. "I'll make sure it detonates." Jason hesitated, Torn between duty and friendship, Dalen's eyes met his, conveying a lifetime of shared memories in a single glance. With a nod of understanding, Jason turned and ran. The explosion ripped through space, a blinding flash that consumed the Dominion flagship. The shockwave rippled outward, crippling ship after ship in its wake. On the Defiance Bridge, Raymond and Deneb watched as the Dominion fleet faltered, their advance finally halted, but victory tasted like ashes in their mouths. In the aftermath, they stood together on an observation deck, looking out at the scarred remains of the Bajor system. Debris from countless ships drifted past, a graveyard of broken dreams and lost lives. Raymond's voice was heavy with the weight of all they had endured. "We won, old friend, but at what cost?" Deneb placed a hand on Raymond's shoulder, his touch conveying shared grief and resilience. "We honor their sacrifices by continuing the work. Our dream of unity is more important now than ever." Raymond nodded, his eyes fixed on the stars beyond. The road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but they would face it together, just as they always had.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.